Good morning, YouTube, BookTube. This is Johnny. I thought I'd make a video since it's been a couple days. Here in West Michigan, it is September the 10th, 2020. It's a Thursday morning. It is 10:28. Here in West Michigan, it is gray, damp, and cold. Kind of an ugly day. And I'm spending the morning writing in my diary as usual. I'm on page 857 for the year 2020. Yeah, I just thought I'd check in. Nothing really going on here. It's too cold to go anywhere. I did mention in my previous video that there is a book sale this Saturday morning in Grand Haven, so my wife and I are going to go to that. I haven't really gone to any thrift. Well, I did go to thrift stores yesterday, but there was nothing. Didn't see anything worth buying. So I kind of passed my days kind of quiet. Lately I've been feeling really just want to sleep all day and doze. I don't know what it is. My wife says I need to get out and move my body, stretch and walk, and I'm just withdrawing into a cocoon. This morning I've been reading Puritan Reformed Theology, Historical, Experiential, Practical Studies for the Whole of Life by Joel R. Beeke. This morning I'm reading this one called Chapter 4, Gethsemane's King Lamb, on John 18 verses 7 and 8 and 18:12 through 13a. So I've been reading that this morning. Last couple of mornings I really haven't been in the mood to read. I mean, I have been reading the Bible. I'm still in Leviticus and in the Old Testament. There's Leviticus, and then we come to Numbers and then Deuteronomy. So I've been reading the Bible in the morning. Then still reading biblical theology according to the apostles, how the earliest Christians told the story of Israel, by Chris Bruno, Jared Compton, and Kevin McFadden. So I read these in the mornings when I'm not falling asleep or feeling exhausted or drained. Or one thing about being retired, I can sit in my easy chair in the living room and just close my eyes and just drift. I don't have to go off to work. We raised our kids. They're all married and have kids and jobs, and so, as you saw in the video last night, we celebrated our granddaughter's 6th birthday. Josie Joy and Cora lived down the street with our oldest son, Caleb, and his wife, Emily. And so that was a blessing, celebrating birthday with our granddaughter and little Cora. Still reading. See what I do. I'll read this afternoon. I've been reading this still. The Life of Samuel Johnson by James Boswell. Still reading this, and trying to finish reading Memories of the Future, a novel by Siri Hustvedt. I only got a couple more pages left in this. So, and then I've been reading her essays still. A Woman Looking at Men, Looking at Women, Essays on Art, Sex, and the Mind by Siri Hustvedt. So this is what I've been reading when I'm not falling asleep or in a coma or exhausted. Really haven't gone anywhere the last couple of days except local thrift stores. Just reading in these books and writing on my diary. Like I said, I've been snoozing a lot. That's about it. Don't have anything coming in the mail. Don't have anything really to say. I just want to stop by and tell you I have not left this world. The plague has not struck us down. So that's it. So tomorrow's a Friday. I wasn't going to do a Friday reads, but I haven't been really reading anything I haven't shown in my last couple of videos. I read the Bible in the mornings. I read biblical theology according to the apostles, and I read Beeke. Yeah, the last thing I read, he has like this, the land's willingness to be bound. Second, we see Christ's submission in his willingness to be bound. Jesus' hands are chained like those of a murderer or criminal. Now what he's talking about is that before Jesus was arrested, he was in the Garden of Gethsemane and Judas came and betrayed him with a kiss, and the Roman guards bound his hands and let him off. And it says, second, we see Christ's submission in his willingness to be bound. Jesus' hands are chained like those of a murderer or criminal. Tradition claims that when people were arrested to be brought to the Roman judge, the accusers bound the hands of the accused so tightly that blood came out of the ends of their fingers. The goal was to prejudice the judge against the accused and so incline him to find the accused guilty as charged. This is probably what the soldiers do to Jesus. The soldiers bind the hands of one who could gladly have gone with them unfettered. They bind the blessed hands of the one who never sinned, healed the lame and the blind, and blessed little children. They bind the hands of one who washed the disciples' feet and broke bread for them in the upper room. They bind the hands that have dipped with bloody sweat and prayer to the Father. Yet Jesus offers his hands to be bound in meekness and in humility. Jesus' bound hands are symbolic of much more. Let me mention 4 ways this is so. First, Jesus is bound to set us free from the bands of sin. Proverbs 5:22 says that by nature we are holden with the cords of our sin. By grace, Jesus became sin for us. 2 Corinthians 5:21. Fretted with our sins, he let himself be arrested and held captive to free us from the captivity of sin and Satan and from the bondage of being prisoners of hell. As Laszlo observes, Christ's bondage corresponds to and counteracts our being bound as captives to sin, the devil, and death. He is a fit redeemer for sinners because he was bound as we were. Therefore, when he arose and ascended on high, he led captivity captive, bound by the cords of love to capture his people in the net of his substitutionary gospel. By his Spirit, he is still drawing sinners with those bands of love today. Second, Jesus is bound so that his people might be bound to him by obedience and love to serve him all their days. When they see him voluntarily bound for their sake, they become willing to be his servants forever. When they see him bound for their sake, no persecution becomes too much. When they view his bonds, their afflictions and trials are sweetened and sanctified. They may even rejoice in suffering under his banner of love, like Paul and Silas, who sang in prison and counted it joy that they were reckoned worthy to suffer for Christ's sake. Acts 16, verse 25. When the early church father Ignatius was bound and chained for confessing Christ, he regarded his bands as spiritual pearls. Do you know the joy of being bound for Christ's sake as his willing servant? Do you ever feel the sweetness of his bonds and pastoral ministry when you are persecuted for Christ's sake? Third, Jesus is bound as the last Adam to restore in the Garden of Gethsemane what was lost by the first Adam in the Garden of Eden. 1. The first Adam sinned in the Garden of Eden. The last Adam bore sin in the Garden of Gethsemane. 2. The first Adam was surrounded with glory and beauty and harmony in Eden and refused to obey. The last Adam was surrounded with bitterness and sorrow in Gethsemane and was obedient unto death. 3. The first Adam was tempted by Satan and fell. The last Adam was tempted by all the forces of hell and did not fall. 4. The first Adam's hands reached out to grasp sin. The last Adam's hands were bound to pay for sin. 5. The first Adam was guilty and arrested by God during the cool of the day. The last Adam was innocent and arrested in the middle of the night. 6. The first Adam hid himself after fleeing. The last Adam revealed himself after walking in the moonlight. 7. The first Adam took fruit from Eve's hand. The last Adam took the cup from his father's hand. 8. The first Adam was conquered by the devil. The last Adam conquered the devil. 9. The first Adam forfeited and lost grace in Eden. The last Adam merited and applied grace in Gethsemane. 10. The first Adam was driven out of Eden. The last Adam was willingly led out of Gethsemane so that the room might be made in heavenly garden of paradise for sinners who trusted in him. Praise be to God. Christ regained all that was lost in Adam and more. In Eden, the sword was drawn and the conflict of the ages began. In Gethsemane, the sword was sheathed and the eternal gospel was displayed. Finally, Jesus is bound above all by the will of the Father. He spared not his own Son, that his people might be spared. His being bound is one of the ingredients of the cup that he had to swallow in paying for the sins of his people. He was bound to himself and to his own work, which he had undertaken from eternity. He was bound to fulfill the eternal covenant of redemption. God bound to God. How wondrous our God of salvation is. So with that, I will close. I hope that you're having a good week, that you are all safe and well, and that you have a good weekend. I'll probably show those books. I'll get the book sale sometime next week. So once again, thank you for all the comments. Thank you for subscribing. And once again, I do hope that you had a good reading week, that you have a good weekend. And until next time, bye.